The video you're about to watch, of course, capture moment. Someone recovered ransom of 10 million. This time around, of course, from Delta as well. You can see that Delta is actually taking the lead when it comes to fighting crimes and criminality. But I would like to watch the video first before we come back to analyze the circumstances surrounding the recovery and the nature of crime. Because, of course, this type of criminality must be adequately addressed for us to have a good policing system in Nigeria. But again, after watching it, we'll come back to analyze this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So total we have here is 10 million naira. This money was criminally robbed from a Nigerian and NYSC youth corps member. No, who was traveling to Rivers State. He was held by these officers, and the family had to contribute this money. Here, you see 10 million naira. That's what we have here. So it's recovered.
My name is Harrison Wamnishu. We just left Unogwa, AIG Zone 16, Unogwa, Bayelsa State. All right. Some NYSC members traveling from Warri to Port Harcourt. They are Deltans. They were stopped at stop and search in Bayelsa State. Some officers who are now identified as surveillance team of the AIG Zone 16, Bayelsa State, took their phones from them and searched them. They found nothing. They searched the car. They found nothing. So they asked them to a police to give them money for fuel. Because of the delay, they delayed them for almost 30 minutes. So the young man transferred 15,000 naira to the officer. This is the account he transferred the money to. And after he transferred this money to the officer, I think the officer holding his phone saw the debit alert on his phone dropped, and they saw that he has some huge amount of money in his account. So now they can't change them for him. Immediately he saw the debit alert on his phone, they dragged them into the car and took them away. They drove them for about 2 hours in the bush, going from different location to another, until they now took them to Zone 16, Bayelsa, where they took them to the office and forced them to make some videos that they alleged internet fraudsters, Yahoo, and the rest of them. So they started telling them to tell the family to send money. They started calling friends and families, and they were sending money to their account until they got about 10 million naira, which they transferred to this POS account. It was paid to POS accounts. The officers involved in this case were just patrolling around the yard, like they were laughing at us. Say, oh, no, we don't collect them now. We go see you. Show now go see. They were like threatening us in the place. So we now went to AIG office to go and say AIG. The PIO led us to AIG office, and the way the man shouted at me, the way the man treated me was very, very bad, and it shows that he is working with these guys. He's the one backing them. Because if you're not the one backing them, I don't see the reason why you should be angry with me. So the IG should call the AIG Zone 16 to order, because these guys have been doing this thing for so long. A lot of recovery has been made. These officers, nothing happened to them. Tomorrow again, they'll go back again to the road again to go and commit more havoc. The anti-courtesy unit of that same Zone 16, money was recovered just last 3 weeks. The officers, nothing happened to them. It continues. Now, after this recovery, now what happened next? They will still go back again to the road again to go and commit more havoc. Escape people, held them hostage, and force them to transfer money into their account. It is criminal. It is criminal. And I believe these officers are the ones destroying the image of the Nigerian police force. They should be called to order.
So having watched the video, I think you can understand what we are into as a people, the type of country we are in. But again, I think this reminds me of what transpired during the NSAS, and of course, specifically, the 5 demand for that the protesters were putting forward to federal government. And what stood out in that 5 demand was the welfare of Nigerian police. Because then, Nigerian youths, particularly in the southern part of the country, were of the view that if the welfare of the police is adequately addressed, the issue of hand-handedness on the part of the police to the citizens will be addressed. Because a situation where you are being paid by taxpayers' money, at the end of the day, the money, the citizens, the first prey of your activities in terms of extortion, I don't think it is good. I don't think it's any good image as a people, as a country. And this even reminds me of a recent video that made around recently, where some military personnel were actually complaining from the theater of operation. Of course, obviously from the trenches where they are fighting insurgents. And the complaint was simple, that they were using their money to feed themselves. And I think that was not enough, that they contribute 60,000 every month. They were about 9 number in that circumstance. And if you put the money together, you're talking about 540,000. And at the end of the day, the food stuff they supplied them with this money they contributed was not incommensurate with the amount they contributed. 2 things stands out. One, they are not adequate, their welfare is not adequately taken care of. Secondly, they are even feeding themselves while they are fighting on behalf of the people. I think the issue is a serious one that needs government urgent attention, because their welfare is paramount. Because if their welfare is not taken care of, it have a way of affecting their overall output. It have a way of affecting their mental ability. Because this, of course, could lead to depression. I think that often accounts for a reason at times you see, or rather, hear some military personnel in the battlefield go berserk, start shooting sporadically, because depression has set in, because their mental ability has been tampered with as a result of the inability of them to handle circumstances surrounding them. Because it's unthinkable that a military personnel who is fighting on behalf of the country will be feeding himself with his own money. And I see that is not enough. Even the money they contribute is not adequately, the money they contribute and the food stuff they supply them is not incommensurate with the money they contribute. Of course, this equally reminds me of a recent protest that happened in Abuja, a situation where retired police personnel were in Abuja to protest about their welfare. So you begin to ask, at what point will the government of Nigeria prioritize the welfare of the personnel who are fighting on behalf of the people? Because the inability, or rather the neglect of their welfare, have a direct bearing on the people. Because if their welfare is not taken care of, they cannot bring out their best. And what their best is not put into the service, of course, there will be lacuna. And the lacuna will expose Nigerians to danger. So that is why the issue of the welfare of the personnel must be adequately addressed. Another issue has to do with disciplining those who are found wanting in terms of perhaps all this extortion, all this type of issue we have that involved the video we just watched. Because I remember that there are so many instances where even at Amnesty International, we perhaps raise issues concerning extortion, concerning human treatment meted to Nigerians by security agencies. And the government is often very quick to tag Amnesty International a partisan organization. Instead of identifying the officers involved, punishing them to add a deterrent to others, the government will often want to, of course, tag Amnesty International as a partisan organization. I must say that it is not in any way helping anyone. But if you ask me, because of this type of issue we are seeing with our security agencies, the police and other security agencies, I think the best way to go is for the authorities to start deploying body camera. So that at every point in time that you deploy personnel of the police, personnel of the military, personnel of the Navy, Air Force to operation, there must be on body cam, so that someone who is at a remote site, of course, in an office, monitoring the activities, will at every point in time know what is happening in the field. That way, anyone that, of course, does anything that is outside the code of conduct will be easily identified, and, of course, punitive action quickly meted out to such person to act as a deterrent to others. Because one thing is certain, it is giving the image of these security agencies bad. Of course, it's painting them in bad light to the outside world. And as that is not the only thing, secondly, it is eroding the confidence Nigerians, the public, have in the security agencies. Because we understand that there are so many instances where even the police authorities will question the public for not divulging information to them. But when the public begin to see all these issues, it becomes difficult for the public to have confidence in the police. So if the police authority have a way of bringing those people to justice to act as a deterrent, of course the public will know that the authorities have a way of addressing it, that the authorities are not in support of it. Because I remember the issue that happened in Edo State, where about 16 Northerners were disallowed. At the time, it was all over the news. And the major point is, why did this people take law into their hands? Having known that the police is the right place to, of course, take any suspect to. So you see, leave us with that breach of trust, that breach of confidence. That if the people have confidence in the police, there is no way anyone will want to take laws into his hands to the extent of lynching his fellow human being. I do not in any way support extrajudicial killing. It's condemnable. But the point I'm making is, if the public do not have confidence in the police, we continue to see things of that nature. And the police have a responsibility to build that confidence so that the public will know that, yes, this is the first point of call when a suspect is arrested. Because it's the police that have the mandate constitutionally to prosecute any crime, any individual that is alleged to have committed crime. So no matter the thinking of any individual, once a suspect is arrested, the first point of call is the police, the nearest police station. The best the public could do, is to make sure that they follow up the case to ensure that it is not swept under the carpet. Because extrajudicial killing is bad by our standards. Taking laws into your hand is bad by our standards, because there are extant laws already laid down to address all these issues. But the police authority should do well to always identify and punish any of its officers that is involved in any act that is outside the conduct, the laid down procedure, or rather, yes, that breach their mode of conduct, their operational modus operandi. Once they do that and the public know that this is happening, they will rekindle that confidence that were eroded in the public. And once that happens, we see a good and a better cordial relationship between the police and the public. But the issue of policing is supposed to be a symbiotic relationship. There's supposed to be a synergy between the public and the police, so that if the public have any action intelligence that will pay off, of course, they will not waste time in divulging such information to the public, so to the police, I mean to say. That is why we have been advocating integrating the locals and particularly the traditional rulers into the security architecture, who of course have moral authority over the people, who the people will find easier to relate to it, who the people will find easier to divulge information to. Because once such information gets to the traditional rulers, of course, it will be easier for them to translate such to the security agencies, who of course need them for their operational issues. Because once that happens, you can start nipping crimes in the bud. I think I must say very big thank you for time. This is Settlement and Mr. Watt.